want to talk to you about something really important, and that is betrayal trauma and the brain. So first we're going to talk about what is betrayal trauma and how does it happen. Next we're going to talk about what it does to your brain and body, and then we're going to also talk about some ways that you can help yourself if you're experiencing this.
Betrayal trauma is one of the most painful and hurtful things that anyone can experience. Some of the things that cause betrayal trauma are sexual addiction, pornography addiction, infidelity, intimacy avoidance, and financial betrayal.
Betrayal trauma happens when you deeply trust someone and they betray that trust. Besides the things that Matt just talked about, it can also happen through constant invalidation, manipulation, dishonesty, gaslighting, these sort of things.
We typically view trauma in two different ways. One is the really traumatic but sudden events, things like car accidents, death, rape, things like that. But there's also those low-grade recurrent traumas that are really impactful as well.
So when you think about these big events, you might think of yourself at a 0 stress level as a normal stress level. Maybe you're relaxed, and then something really big happens and you hit a 10 in terms of stress. That's what Matt's talking about when he's talking about these big events. When you're talking about constant low-grade trauma, you're really talking about lying, manipulating, gaslighting, defensiveness, blame shifting, these kind of things that make you question your reality or that traumatize you a little bit over time. But the point is, eventually you get to that 10 stress level just like you did on the big event. It doesn't matter if it happens all at once or if it happens over time. Once you're there, you're there. One of the issues that we hear about when we talk to partners who have experienced betrayal trauma is this minimization that happens about the trauma that they've experienced. Well, it's not like I punched you. It's not like I killed someone you know, okay? Those are the really big traumas, but it's this minimization of the pain that's caused over time that's really the problem. And we want to say today that those count as betrayal trauma as well. We also want to talk about being in an environment where people are saying, well, you should have known better, or that's not that big of a deal. That can actually make betrayal trauma worse. Betrayal trauma is intensely painful because the person that you trusted the most in your life now becomes the person that you trust the least. So this shifts your perspectives and beliefs, which is extremely disorienting. This kind of trauma can have serious impacts to your brain and to your body, and we're going to talk about some of those today. So first, let's talk about the brain. Betrayal trauma actually causes some changes to happen in your brain. The prefrontal cortex, which is the part of the brain that's made for logical thinking and decision making, slows down. The hippocampus, which is a part of your brain that is responsible for taking short-term memory and turning it into long-term memory and processing emotions, is impaired. And the amygdala, the part of your brain that's responsible for attaching emotion to memories, becomes hypervigilant. The result of all of this is constant triggers, and a trigger can be described as stimuli that cause a strong emotional response. The triggers don't always make sense either. It's whatever your brain puts together at the time, and that's a process known as pattern matching.
Pattern matching is where you take new information and match it to previously stored information, and this helps you to identify threat.
With all of these things going on at the same time in your brain, it's hard for someone who experiences betrayal trauma to process information. And I heard this analogy a long time ago and I wanted to use it here. And it's as if your brain was a filing system. So everything that you know, the people that you trust, your life, and the meaning that you take from it in context with how the people are interacting with you in your life are filed away in your brain in a certain order. Well, when the person who you trusted the most betrays you, it's as if all those files just dump onto the floor. They make no sense. The context is gone. So with all that mess of files on the floor of your brain, when new information comes in, the brain really doesn't know where to put that either. So it just kind of dumps the new information on the top of the old information, and now you're left with a huge mess that you don't know how to sort through. So what used to make sense doesn't make sense anymore, and your brain does not know how to file it. And one of the things that happens to betrayed partners is that they ask questions over and over and over again. First, they ask a very large number of questions. Second, sometimes they ask the same question over and over again. And this is because of the phenomenon that I just explained. So when you've got a mess of files on the floor and no information makes sense, when you ask a question and somebody answers it, your brain really doesn't know where to put that information either. And so it just kind of dumps into the pile. Next, we want to talk about what happens to the body, because it's not just the brain that's impacted, but the body as well. When we talk to betrayed partners, they often talk about anxiety, depression, intrusive thoughts, flashbacks, headaches, nausea, dizziness, insomnia is a big one. These are all things that go along with betrayal trauma. The reason these things go along with betrayal trauma is what I described earlier, which is the amygdala being in a hyper-aroused state. Now, hyperarousal can happen in two different ways. First, hyperarousal that we tend to think of is not being able to calm down, being hypervigilant, these sort of things. The second kind of hyperarousal is actually being shut down. There are two different sides of the brain, and they both happen with betrayal trauma. There are many things you can do for yourself depending on which state of hyperarousal you're in. If you're in hyperarousal where you can't calm down, mindfulness exercises and breathing exercises are particularly helpful. Some great mindfulness exercises include meditation, gratitude, remembering the things in your life that are actually good, and body scanning, which is paying attention to each part of your body and taking note where you feel tension.
To reduce your stress and to focus in on your breathing, you can do a technique called box breathing. So you're going to breathe in for 4 seconds, hold for 4 seconds, breathe out for 4 seconds.
And this has a calming effect on you, and it can also take you away from ruminating on negative thoughts by focusing on your breathing. If you're on the other side of hyperarousal, which is being shut down, mindfulness and breathing exercises like box breathing will be helpful to you too, but so is physical activity. And a great way to combine mindfulness exercises with physical activity is to do a meditation while on a walk. And there's lots of great meditation apps that you can listen to while you're walking that can help you do this. If you're recovering from betrayal trauma, it's really important to understand that your emotional energy needs to be conserved for yourself. And intrusive thoughts and rumination can sap you of your energy very quickly. It's really easy to fixate on the other person. Why did they do that? Why did they say that? And become consumed by it. And so we want to leave you with one final tip to help you out.
An easy way to snap yourself out of ruminating and get the focus back on yourself is to wear a rubber band. So if you snap the rubber band when you're ruminating about the other person, it'll help you to move the energy back to yourself.
Betrayal trauma is really tough, and we know that you're going through a lot. So hopefully what we've shared has helped you along your journey. And remember, you're not alone.
Thanks for watching. If you like what you saw, go ahead and hit the subscribe button below.
Or head over to becomingwellinstitute.com to learn more about trauma, addiction, intimacy avoidance, and other related topics, take a free assessment, or set up a consult with one of our trained professionals.
Let us help you keep your journey towards becoming well going.